Hey everybody, my name is Ben and I've acquired 5 cash flowing businesses over the last 3 years. Because of this, I've gained financial freedom in 1/10 the time as following traditional ways. Buying a business is the quickest way to build life-changing wealth. It only takes one deal to become a millionaire, but it is not easy. It takes focus, it takes humility, and it takes grit to get a deal done. Many try to land their first deal, but as soon as the going gets tough, they quit. If you follow these 10 steps and commit to getting a deal done, I promise you that you're going to change your wealth building journey forever. Let's dive in and get to it. Step 1 is you're going to start researching the landscape. What do I mean by landscape? It is the deal landscape that is available on market, which means online. The first thing that you're going to do is start researching the landscape. And the perfect place to start is bizbuysell.com. Bizbuysell.com has thousands of listings where you can start to search through and see what is on the market in your target area. The more deals that you look at, the more patterns you're going to see that start to emerge. You're going to start to see the deals that all come on the market and get sold right away. And you're going to see deals on there that have been there for the past year and have had no movement. The more you look, the more you will start to understand what makes a good deal and what makes a bad deal. You're going to see a lot of terms that you may not understand. Some of those terms might be SDE, which stands for seller discretionary earnings, or EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, or FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and expenses. We're going to get into more details on these terms in a second, but realize as you're going down this journey, just like any topic, you're gonna have to start learning the lingo. Okay, now that we're on BizBuySell, let's start off with doing a search for businesses that are making more than $10,000 a month in profit. So you're gonna go to bizbuysell.com. We're gonna use Miami, Florida for the example here, so that's what you're gonna put on the location. You're then gonna go down to the cash flow tab in the filter section, and you're going to put at least $120,000 per year, which comes out to at least $10,000 a month. On the price filter, you're going to put $500 to $1 million. So $500,000 all the way to $1 million as the price of the business for sale. Now, after you click search, you're going to see in Miami, Florida, all the businesses selling between $500,000 and $1 million that are all making at least $10,000 or more in cash flow per month. So now we've done our first search. Now the time is to go through each of these listings that come up and start to get an understanding for what the seller is selling with the business and why they are selling this business. Step 2 in the process is finding out the type of business that you actually want to buy. You might think that you're agnostic about the type of business you're buying. You might tell yourself that, oh, I only care about cash flow. I don't care about industry. This is not the right focus to have, especially for your first acquisition. On your first acquisition, you want to make sure that you are focusing on an industry that you completely understand and something that you actually have an interest in. The reason why you want to choose something that you're interested in is that you're going to have to learn the ins and outs of the business that you're buying. And if you have no interest in this particular type of business, that is going to be a much harder task to do. Pick something that you can have excitement about. As you start to grow this business, and you might do follow-on acquisitions in this same vertical, if you have more interest in it, the better that you're going to perform and the better that your team is going to be built as well. So how do you even start thinking about the type of business that you want? Well, the easiest way is to start thinking about the things that you use on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So start looking at the services, whether it's someone who comes and cuts your lawn as a landscaper, someone who cleans your pool as a pool cleaning company, or every year you get your taxes done, maybe an accounting firm. Just start thinking through the different things that you know that are bring value to your life, and you'll start to see the businesses that have a great industry and value proposition behind them. Now, after you figure that out, start to narrow down that list. So try to get at least 5 to 10 different type of industries that you use and you know that there's value in and that you completely understand how that business works. Another thing to think about when you're thinking about these services, whether it be landscaping, pool service, or accounting firm, is also think about the ways in which you know that you could improve it. All right, there's definitely complaints that each one of us has about a lot of these essential services. So start thinking through your head about the ways in which you can make that service a little bit better. Maybe you can make the website better. Maybe you can make getting a hold or in contact with the service better. Maybe you can offer a better service in general. Maybe you add other add-ons to it. A million different ways that you can start to think about each of these industries and how you particularly can make this better. Step 3 is determining what your goal is. If you want to purchase a business and never thinking about it again after closing, this is not the strategy for you. Now, while I have multiple businesses and only spend a couple hours a week on them, I still have to spend some time on them. They are not completely passive. And if you're looking to do this and you're looking for something to be just mailbox money and never to think about it again, this is not the right system and strategy for you. But if you want to be an investor and be able to buy these businesses, focusing on a few hours a week to grow them and to grow your team and to mentor them and to get them motivated to perform, then this is the strategy for you. And this could be a game changer for your wealth building journey. You might even want to be an owner operator where you currently have a W-2 and you want to leave that normal job and go and run your own business. And this would be a great strategy for you. That is actually the easiest way to go about doing this. My preferred path is to find a great business that already has someone who is managing the day-to-day, where the owner is just focusing on something high level for the business, maybe sales, maybe working on new products, and find a business like that because I'm able to buy it. It's already being managed on the day-to-day, and then I can bring my resources and my experience to try to grow it with the team that I have. You need to know your focus before you start your search. If you start your search without knowing your focus, it is going to be a waste of time. So make sure that you are thinking through this and have an idea of what you want to go through before you actually start getting into the meat and potatoes of finding a deal. If you do it correctly, you can get this process down to managing the business over a few hours a week. That's what I do, and that's what I like to teach. But you need to decide what you want. Step 4 is start to engage with lenders. Before you even call your first broker or seller, you need to make sure that your financing is in order. How are you planning on paying for this acquisition? Do you have enough cash in the bank to where you're able to purchase this deal outright? If so, okay, you can go ahead and do that. Do you need to use a bank to finance the acquisition, which is the most common way to get deals done? Do you only want to do a deal where the seller is willing to do a large portion of seller financing? Or do you want to do a deal where you find the deal and you bring an investor who's able to put the down payment or completely buy the company outright and you run it? There's many different ways in which a deal can get done. And a lot of times it's using almost all 3 or 4 of those methods in the same deal. You can be creative, and there's many ways in which you can structure something to get that deal across the finish line. The beauty in this is that there's so many ways to get a deal done. You need to go into every single deal and make sure that you're keeping your mind open and really getting a good idea for the seller and what they truly want. And then you can structure your offer around it to where you're going to hit their main points, but yet still have a lot of upside for you and your investor as you go forward on this deal. You're also going to hear no a lot in this process. When you first mention seller financing, a lot of sellers will say absolutely not. But as you go throughout the process, a lot of times that no can become a yes as they realize what that really means for the deal. All right, let's get back to the lenders. Since most buyers are going to need some type of financing, it's good practice to go and get pre-qualified from an SBA lender or conventional lender at a bank as you are doing this process. Here are the 4 things you need to think about when you start to talk to lenders. Number 1, from the first call, the lender is sizing you up. They get hundreds of requests for funding every single month, and they have a stack on their desk that is about 5 feet tall of all the people who want to get the bank to fund their deal. You need to make sure that you're getting to the top of it, which means that from the first call, you're coming off as professional and someone who understands what they are getting themselves into. Number 2, make sure when you're talking to the lender that you're telling them what your focus really is. You're not just saying, hey, I want to buy a business that makes me a lot of money. No, you're saying I want to buy an HVAC company that between $1 million and $2 million that's going to at least cash flow at least $500,000 a year. When you say that to a lender, they're going to understand and realize that they're talking to someone who's put some thought into this and has a good chance at actually being successfully finding a deal and closing on it. Number 3, come prepared with your last 3 years of tax returns and your W-2s to make sure that you can show the lender that you're someone who is qualified to take on a loan. And number 4, make sure you filled out a personal financial statement. This is a statement that shows all of your assets and your liabilities. And the bank is going to use this to determine how much money, or if you're a qualified candidate, to take out a loan from them to buy a business. If you come to the first meeting with all 4 of these things ready to go, I promise you that your conversation with the lender is going to go better than 99% of other conversations, and they're going to put your name at the top of that pile to get focused on. Step number 5, start making calls. So now you have your pre-qualification letter from the SBA. Now's the time to start practicing your calls and calling brokers and sellers and getting an understanding about how to have these conversations to find out information about these businesses. Now is the time to start making calls. A lot of calls. Don't get discouraged. You're going to do dozens, if not hundreds of calls with different sellers and brokers before you probably find your first deal. And even when you find a great deal, it is normally going to take multiple offers before you get the one that is finally going to close. Do not lose heart. This is the process. And if you are diligent and make sure that you are calling a certain number of brokers and sellers a day, and you're putting out a certain amount of offers per month, you will get a deal across the finish line. Do as many calls as you can and take copious notes. You're going to lose track, I promise you. After your 6th or 7th call with the seller, all the businesses are going to start mixing up. You're going to think one is, has a manager, one is making $500,000 a year. You're going to get them all mixed up. So make sure you are taking copious notes and making sure that that's tied and keeping this in a central location for where all your information is gathered. So let's say you've now done 25 calls and you finally found a business that hits all of the different check boxes that you're looking for. It's profitable and it's priced right. You feel like you've struck gold. Everything sounds great about this business. You feel like you just have to have it. Stop. At this point, you need to make sure that you are not getting emotionally involved in this business. This is the easiest thing to fall into. I did it myself when I first started, and every client that I have, I make sure to tell them, do not get emotionally tied to a business. It's exciting. I get that. And you're going to go through this process. And when you finally get one that seems like it's going to work, you're going to be emotionally invested in it. But you need to be able to take a step back and realize that this is a business deal, that you're going to find out a lot of things once it's under contract over the next 45 to 90 days. And you need to be able to be objective to see if this is a deal that you should do or not do, and get out when you need to. Never get emotionally involved in buying a business. Not ever. This was really hard for me when I was first buying my first business. You get to know the sellers. You're talking with them on the phone multiple times. They're good people. They've worked really hard and they got a great business that they want to sell. You feel like you are becoming friends with them. You feel like if you back out, you're going to put them in a really bad situation. You're going to have all of those feelings, but you need to push them to the side and continue to focus on what matters. Is this a good business? How does the management work? Is it profitable? Can I bring something to this deal that is going to make this an even better business? This needs to be your thought process, not about pleasing the sellers, not about just getting the deal over the finish line so I can stop this search process. You need to take your time, be patient, and stay focused. Always be cordial, be respectful, but keep your distance. You do not want to get into a spot where you feel guilty for backing out of a deal. Okay, enough of the disclaimers. Let's get back to the search. So now you've gotten a great business. You got their last 3 years of tax returns, their P&Ls, and you send them over to your SBA lender. Your SBA lender is going to take that information and he's going to basically create a deal sheet showing you if this is a deal that the bank would consider actually lending on. They're going to take the numbers and show you based on the last 3 years of tax returns and any seller add backs and what could be added to that number. And then they're going to come out and say, on this deal, we're willing to lend X amount of money. You need to have that information because that is going to directly influence the amount of money that you're going to offer to the seller of that business. Okay, let's take a look at an example. This is a synthetic grass business. And as you look at the numbers, you can see what this business is selling for, how much cash flow it has, whether it has furniture, fixtures, and equipment, how many employees. All that information should be right front and center as you're looking at the listing. The seller is retiring after 18 years, and now he just wants to go on a boat and fish all day. That's a great story. All right, so buying someone from someone who's retiring, a business from someone who is retiring, is one of the best ways to buy a business. The tax returns show that he's making a consistent profit, and when you send it out to your lender, he says that this is definitely a deal that they would consider lending on. At this point in the process, this is where the lender gets back to you and he says, okay, we're willing to offer this amount of money for the purchase of the business. You make that offer to the seller. They accept. Now you're under contract. Congratulations. Okay, now that you're getting serious about this business, you want to really take a good look at what those financials are telling you. Your SBA lender or your bank lender is going to be looking at this deal from the bank's perspective, and they're going to let you know how much they're going to be willing to offer on this deal. So they're going to be doing their own analysis, but you need to do yours as well. And this is a part of the conversation where a pro tip is, now, here's a pro tip, hiring someone to audit the financials. Now, we're going to be doing a lot more of this post-offer on the business, which we'll get to in a moment. But even before we get to that phase, you should have a due diligence professional that you can throw this in front of to see if it's even worth your time in making an offer on, right? They'll be able to do a little bit of due diligence on it, just go through the accounting records that they have for the business, and they should give you a thumbs up or thumbs down on whether they think it is worth the time and effort to dive into. Okay, so let's look at the chart below. You're going to see that on the x-axis, we're talking about the SDE, which is the seller discretionary earnings in thousands. And on the y-axis is showing the multiples. Now the lines that are going through the middle show where the price is on average. We have the low, we have the average, and then we have the high. So the way that you read this chart is you're going to take the x-axis, which is showing the SDE in terms of thousands. So when we're looking at this listing and it says it's making $500,000, you're going to go on that bottom axis and you're going to scroll across till you hit the 500 mark. And then you're going to take what the price of the selling of the business is at. So if in an example, the business is selling at 2 million, right? You're going to take 2 million, you can divide that by the 500,000, and that's going to give you 4 as the multiple. And so then you go from 4 and from 500, and you would meet at the point where it shows where that is. And I'll show you that that'll be approximately $2 million. It's going to show you the price. And then I'll show you on the low end what that price could be and on what the high end on that price can be. Now, this is just a chart to use in order to get a good idea of what to offer. To see what the industry averages are when it comes to your business and what you're trying to get it for. Now, based on the sale price of 1.35 million, they're pretty much smack dab in the middle of the low and high at 2.3 as the multiple on the price. Now, this is actually not a bad price, and it's actually a really good spot to start negotiations at. This is where buying a business can become really fun. In general, there are so many businesses for sale and so few buyers that in the negotiating phase, you as the potential buyer have a lot of power. This business can be for sale for 6 months and you're literally the first person making an offer on it. Think about that, right? If someone's trying to sell their house and for 6 months, no one has even come around to make an offer, and then you show up 6 months later with an offer, no matter what the price you're putting at, if it's reasonable, they are seriously going to consider it. Step number 6, let's make an offer. When you look at the last 3 years of tax returns with add backs, you're going to see that the average over the last 3 years was $450,000 in cash flow. The last year was the business's best year, where they did $569,000 of cash flow, but we don't just take the last year, because normally that will be the best. You take the average of the last 3 years, and that is what you're going to use for your multiple on your price. Now you take the $450,000 and you times it by the 2.3 multiple that we got to before, and you come out with a price. That price is $1,066,000. So for the sake of rounding, we're going to round the $1,066,000 and we're going to make it down to $1 million. This is going to be our fair offer price, and we submit it to the seller for them to consider. So the seller waits a few days and gets back to us at a sale price of $1.25 million. So now you have the turn of waiting, and you wait a few days, and then you come back with your final offer of $1.1 million. The seller accepts the offer, and you are now under contract for $1.1 million, which is a 2.4 multiple on the business. Not a bad deal at all. Step 7, structuring the purchase agreement. Now, when we say $0, we mean $0 from us. There's obviously going to be money that has to be used for the down payment and for the bank to carry the rest of the purchase price. But that money is going to be coming from an investor, not from us. So for this example, we're going to use Bob. Bob is your wealthy neighbor who is friends with you, and you've been telling a lot about this deal and the search that you've been on over the last few months. You have been talking to Bob about your search for a landscaping company, and Bob has been very interested and has told you that if you found a great deal that he would want to come on as a silent investor. So the deal that you've come up with Bob is this. Bob is going to produce the 10% needed down payment to fund the SBA loan, but in exchange, he is going to get 15% equity in the company. Now, the way the SBA works is anyone who's over 20% or more in equity needs to become a guarantor on the loan as well. Now, since Bob is below the 20%, he does not have to be the guarantor on the loan. So for him, it's really straight 15% equity in the business, and now he'll also get payments of 15% of the cash flow of the business as well. Now, Bob is ecstatic. He gets to put down 10%. He ends up getting 15%, which is a 50% bonus in terms of ownership of the business, and he doesn't have to worry about running the business day to day. It's a pretty good deal. So Bob is going to bring $110,000 to the deal, and after debt costs and everything else, this business should cash flow around $35,000 per month. Now, Bob is getting 15% equity, which means he gets 15% of the cash flow of the business. This is a good deal for Bob, but this is a great deal for you. Here's why. Bob gets $5,250 a month in cash flow for doing absolutely nothing, which is a 57% cash on cash return in his first year of investing in this business. Bob is happy, but you are even happier. You are still cash flowing $29,000 a month, and you have room to hire a general manager who's going to manage the day-to-day operations of this business for $5,000 a month, which leaves you $24,000 a month in cash flow. As the owner of the business, you take a salary of $10,000 a month, which is $120,000 a year. Even with that, you still have over $14,000 a month that you can use as cash flow to build the business to make it even more profitable. Step number 8, due diligence. This is honestly the most important part of purchasing a business. After you have signed the purchase agreement, the seller has signed the purchase agreement, you're now officially under contract. You have anywhere between 45 and 90 days normally to look at every single aspect of this business to see if you want to buy it. Now, this doesn't just mean the financials. It means financials, the management, your team, the industry. This is where you have a chance to ask any questions that you can, meet the team members, talk with the owner, and really get a good feel if this is something that you want to commit to in your $1 million purchase that you're putting up. Now, at this phase, you're putting up for the purchase agreement, you normally have to put up earnest money. So let's just say you're putting up $5,000 in earnest money for this process. Now, the way that business buying works is that for the entire length of the due diligence process, if you find anything that doesn't smell well, or you find out that the owner wasn't being exactly honest, or you find out that the deal is way less profitable or even a little less profitable than you thought, you can get out of the deal and get your earnest money back. So it's very important that you use this time where you have a lot of power as the buyer to make sure that this is truly the right business for you and for your wealth building goals. Now, during the due diligence process, as I mentioned before, you really want to hire someone who is a professional in this industry. So there are people out there are certain CPAs, and there's people that just focus on doing due diligence for mergers and acquisitions. And those are the type of people that you want looking at this deal to make sure that not only is it as profitable as you're hoping it is, but also what is happening with in terms of the industry that it's in, to happen with in terms of the way that it's the license is required for this business, or anything that could affect you taking over this business and the profitability that you're expecting. A due diligence professional is going to give you that. Now, this is going to come at a cost. So on the low end, you're talking about $5,000, and on the high end, you're talking about $25,000, $30,000. But this is peanuts compared to the overall investment you're making in this business. So make sure, as you are looking at your deal, that you are taking the time and you're hiring a due diligence professional to look at your deal to make sure it is good to go. Another part of due diligence is getting to know your team, or the team that you're going to be inheriting. This means going to the business, speaking with the managers, going out on jobs to see how they interact with customers, to see the quality of their work. You can learn a ton just by taking a day or two and shadowing what this team is really doing before you're making this purchase. Another important aspect is checking out the social media pages for this business. Now, a lot of service businesses, the type that we focus on, normally don't even have a social media presence. But for the ones that do, and they invest heavily in Google views, or they have Facebook that has a lot of likes or has a lot of reviews, those are essential things to check out to make sure that the online presence that your business has is one that is going to help you grow the company, not one that is horrible and that you need to figure out how to change in order to start growing it. Do not underestimate the power of a bad social media presence. If you have bad reviews on Google or on Facebook, this is a severe detriment to that business. It is not impossible to overcome, but perception is reality. So you need to be able to factor that in when you're thinking about purchasing this business. Step number 9, develop a post-close plan. Now that due diligence is done, everything looks great, you need to make a plan for the next 90 days after closing about what you're going to focus on as soon as you buy this business. Here are some things to focus on in the first 90 days. Setting up and transferring your bank accounts, employee contracts, insurance, social media account logins, website logins, email access to the company email and passwords, changing the lease and utilities into your name, and really important, a formal introduction between the seller and you to the new team that you have just inherited. These are just some of the things that you need to be on your list, and depending on the industry, there could be dozens more. The more that you plan, the easier the transition will be. Step number 10, close the deal. This guide is meant to just be a step-by-step overview of what it takes in order to buy a business that is cash flowing you at least $10,000 a month. There are many strategies and steps between the 10 that I mentioned that will greatly enhance your success as you are going about doing your first acquisition. To learn those high-level strategies and have someone who is going to help you throughout the entire process of your acquisition, you can join my private coaching program called Acquisition Ace. In my program, I show you the exact steps to find these deals, how to analyze them, and get your deal funded. All the while, I'm answering your questions every single day and making sure that you're getting your deal done as fast as possible. If you're interested, reach out to me below. Buying businesses is not for everybody, but it can be for you and it will change everything. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll be talking to you guys again soon.